because you wouldn't necessarily expect, or certainly the establishment press doesn't expect to hear a discussion about criminal justice reform and prison reform at the Conservative Political Action Conference. But in point of fact, this is a big problem. It's an expensive problem. It creates problems that create more expensive problems, and only conservatives can fix this. Our friends on the left have zero credibility when it comes to focusing on reducing criminal activity and punishing people who deserve to be punished. Let me make this clear. This is not some moderate liberal thing where we should be here, we decide to step 2 feet in. This is getting to punishing real criminals, violent criminals, habitual criminals, professional criminals, and keeping the costs down so we don't have to loot the American taxpayers to fill prisons with people who aren't a threat to other people. But if you leave them in prison long enough, you get additional problems that cost money and cost lives. This is about fighting crime smartly. There's a group has a booth here, Right on Crime. I hope you'll have a chance to go take a look at it. There are a lot of center-right political leaders who've signed on and said this is important. And I've testified in a number of states taking Texas's ideas. If these ideas hadn't started in Texas, it would be a lot harder to sell them. I mean, it could be a really good idea, but I've testified in Florida and Oklahoma and Missouri and a number of other state legislators, and the number of states that have passed progress along the lines that you were talking about: Georgia, Missouri, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas first, Ohio, Pennsylvania. These are not blue states. These are red states, okay? But if I'd walked in and said, you know, it's a really good idea, they did this in Vermont, they'd laugh at you, even if it was a good idea. Only coming from the right can serious criminal justice reform that saves taxpayers money and saves American lives, both the people whose lives are destroyed because they go to prison for longer than they needed to, or the people whose lives are damaged because the bad guys aren't in prison because we were too busy filling them with people who didn't need to be in prison. So we couldn't keep the violent guys in. So this is all about a conservative initiative. We let the Democrats vote with us at the end of the day, but they don't get to write the bills. And these are ideas that have worked, not only came up in Texas, they worked in Texas. This is federalism at its best. A couple of states have done this. They've done this for several years. There's a track record. Then you take it, as opposed to the guys who go, well, we just had this thought, and we thought we'd write it out in 3,000 pages over the evening and stick it down the whole country's throat and call it Obamacare. You know, why didn't they do that to Vermont first and come back after 5 years and tell us if it worked? So the whole idea of the right on crime, smart on crime, those reforms coming state by state. You know, if something isn't working, I want to find out about it in Arizona, not when somebody's passed a law that affects all 57 states at once.